What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra. This week I'm joined by Senior Reporter Igor Bonifacic. Hey, Igor, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. And this is a special one because it is countdown to the iPhone event. We heard that Apple has scheduled the iPhone event for September 9th. That's when we're expecting the whole iPhone 17. And to celebrate that or to prepare for that, we're bringing on Mr. Mark Gurman from Bloomberg, the guy who reports on a lot of the iPhone rumors, to chat, later on this episode. So stay tuned for that. And I think we'll have a good chat about AI and a few other things too, but a lot of iPhone rumors, a lot of Apple rumors. As always, folks, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes and drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. We'd love your questions, and they may get read on the show. They may go into our Ask Engadget section on the site too. So, send us a note, podcast@engadget.com. I do miss troubleshooting. That is a whole fun thing. All right, we're going to record out of order, like I'm saying, folks. So, how about we start with what we're working on, okay? Let's move on to what we're working on. Igor, what's going on with you this week?
So I'm working on an interview with Proton. I had a really great chat with
Hmm.
they're basically the head of their AI department, such that it
Proton is
is
like the note taking app, right?
Proton. So they're all about the privacy. So they
Oh,
have
right.
the
The
private
app and
email.
everything. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they have a chatbot called Lumo. Lumo's interesting because the company doesn't record any of your chats with it.
Hmm.
And it's all built on open source models. And it was really interesting talking to this guy because he doesn't believe the current models will lead, that is, large language learning models will lead to AGI, right?
Right,
So
right.
it was really interesting. So I'm really excited to bring that. And then I'm working on we'll be discussing this later, which is the Intel, uh, the 10% that the government has bought through the CHIPS Act into Intel. So I've been
Correct
doing a
that there,
follow on.
Igor. This section will go after the news story. So just say
Yeah.
as we discussed. Say that
Right.
again.
Yes.
Say, as we discussed. Yeah.
Yes. So as we discussed, I'm also working on a section on the government buying a 10% stake
Mhm.
into Intel, talking to some experts about that.
Cool. Very cool. Um, as for me, it's been a whole bunch of things. I'm doing a lot of Windows 10 preparation right now for the end of Windows 10, so we'll do more stories around that. I'm working on a review of the Dell Premium 16, which is the XPS 16 follow up. Also, a review of the X-Real 1 Pro, and potentially some tiny desktops as well. We've seen a lot of small systems going for like $150 that are kind of interesting. Have you seen those, Igor?
I haven't, no.
There's some good stuff. A lot of them have Celeron processors. A lot of them have 16 gigabytes of RAM at
Hmm.
150 to $200, and that is just it's surprising to me. So I want to call one of those in, and we'll take a closer look at that.
Hmm.
Let me just mute this. I have to get this call. Also, getting over a lingering COVID infection, so that's fun.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's all sorts of fun. All right, we got a little more time. Let's go to picks. Okay. That's what we're working on. Any pop culture picks you want to shout out, Igor?
Yeah, right now, I don't know if this will still be the case once we publish this podcast, but right now Steam is having a sale on a game called Arco. It's 50% off. It's like the setting is like a Mesoamerican fantasy setting, which is
Hmm,
really wonderful. It has really
I've seen
beautiful
that. Yeah,
pixel
yeah.
and a really innovative combat system, and I've just been loving it. So I got it for like $15 Canadian, which isn't real money. So it'd probably be even less with real money, and I just can't recommend it enough.
Very cool. Very cool. As for me, I've been kind of on a kick. I had to review the film Neja 2, the Chinese animated, action epic for my movie podcast, and because of
Mhm,
that, I watched Neja 1 for the first time because this thing is a phenomenon. Neja
mhm.
2 is the highest grossing animated movie ever, apparently. It's
Oh.
been a huge thing. It's been re-released in the US. I'm assuming it's in Canada as well, by A24 with an English cast, and
Mhm,
that's kind of interesting as well. The first movie is fine. The first movie is like your basic Dragon Ball Z thing, right? You've got a demon child who's cursed by heaven and has to decide between being good and bad and all that stuff. Very basic, like fantasy epic, but it has some good stuff to it. Deja 2 is one of the most beautiful animated films I've ever seen. It is
mhm,
wild. It is like this animation studio basically got so many resources, and the director. It's sort of like if you think of the jump from like a movie like Willow
mhm.
to like The Lord of the Rings, just in terms of scale and epicness and just like what
Yeah.
they were doing. It is wild. I even saw it in 3D. I'm not the biggest 3D fan, but it looked good. It had
Mhm,
like they definitely knew how to deal with 3D layering and all that stuff. So big animated epic. I would recommend seeing Neja 2 in theaters if you can, but you got to see the first one because this movie it does not hold it has a brief intro to recap like what happened, but it will not hold your hand. Characters are getting thrown in there. Stuff just happens. You will not have a sense of this world or the sense of humor or like the scope of what they're doing if you don't see the first movie. And the first movie is only 90 minutes. So I think it's worth watching, even though it's not like the best animated film out there, to get to the second movie, which is fantastic. Truly a tremendous work of cinema. So check out Neja 2. It's in theaters now. You'll be able to stream it at home eventually, but it's sort of like, will you watch Avatar at home? Will you watch like a big, large scale epic? Unless you have a really good home theater, there's probably little chance you're going to be doing that. So that's why I'm saying, like, get out to the theater, go see things on a big screen. I'm all about the big screen thing. Like, even though I'm lucky enough to have a home theater set up with a projector and everything, but I still prefer going to the theater when I can for a lot of these movies.
mhm.
So yeah, check out Neja 2. It's in theaters now.
Yeah, there's just something magical about that social experience you have sitting down in a theater.
There is. I just saw Weapons, that horror movie from the director of Barbarian, and that is such a perfect crowd experience because it is a wild horror movie that's kind of funny and goes places. It's just like just perfectly captures like why I like going to see movies with a big crowd. So
Mhm.
yeah, that crowd experience. But honestly, even if it's a big empty theater, like it is such a different experience than sitting at home and just trying to watch something on Netflix or whatever. So I'm all about that. Go see movies in theaters, folks, when you can. All right. We could chat a little bit while we prepare for this because we're going to do some rumor talk. Mark is hopefully going to come on soon. Let me check my email actually. How is chat doing? Let me see here. Hello, Mr. North Cooked. Hello, Simon B. Hello, everybody. Send us your questions. AMA. Ask us anything right now because we're waiting for a guest to come on. Igor, give us a preview of your Intel piece. You know what you're going to be, how you're going to be positioning the 10% thing.
Well, it's really interesting, right? Because
Mhm.
you like in many ways this is so unprecedented, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the only colliery I could think of was, when following the 2008 recession when I believe it was the Obama administration, right? Like they announced investments into or rescue funds for GM, Ford, and many automakers, right? Um, but still, this is very different, right? And the fact that it is like
And banks as well. Like
and banks, yeah,
the banks were
yeah,
saved earlier, but
yeah.
that was a whole thing. Yeah, it was
That was
investment in these companies to sort of resave them, right? Yeah.
right. But here also,
Mhm.
there's the added part of it where this is already money that was guaranteed through the CHIPS
Mhm.
Act, right? And so there's just so many layers to it. Still like reading up on the situation, still trying to understand it and how to like write about it. Because it, like I said earlier, it's really unprecedented.
Yeah, yeah, it's totally wild. Actually, chat, good IC questions coming in for Mark. That's a good one. Actually, drop in your iPhone 17 or Apple rumor questions. These are all things we definitely will be talking about. Thank you, folks. And some of them, like, we're still kind of waiting to see. I do feel like I mean, I have a chance to ask many of these to Mark, but we'll kind of rope things into the conversation. Um, I don't think the iPhone Mini is ever coming back. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, folks. Like, you guys, Apple made that thing because so many people were saying, "Oh yeah, yeah, we love a mini iPhone." And I think like 5 people bought it, and everybody else kind of hated it because the battery life is terrible because it's a small phone. Um, one of the things we'll talk about in this episode is I kind of think if the iPhone 17 Air's battery is as low as like is being reported, like I'm seeing like what 2800 milliamps, something somewhere around that, really low. Um, that's gonna be a problem. I don't think people are gonna. We're a little spoiled with like bigger batteries and thicker iPhones right now. I don't think people are gonna understand. You're gonna have to sacrifice battery life to get a thinner iPhone. So we shall see. I'll bring this question up.
Yeah, I just looked it up on GSM Arena, and the iPhone 13 mini had a 2438 milliampere. So, I don't think the process has gotten that much better since then, right? And there hasn't been a breakthrough in battery technology, so it could be as bad or worse.
Let me see here. Oh, Mark went to the wrong meeting thing, but we will get him in here. Let me mute and just grab him here. Why don't you talk to the chat, Igor? See what's going on. This thing is not letting me into our meet right now.
Hello, everyone. Let me just join the chat, and then I will.
Talk on air. Talk on air.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, let's see. Ben, always showing a great sense of humor, talking about Mark's favorite food, which is apple rumors. Has anyone been reading Mark since his 9 to 5 days? Because that was truly the heyday of tech blogging, in my opinion.
Golden
Just
era. Yeah.
golden era, and it's like many things, been all downhill ever since. So that was, yeah. We'll definitely ask him about the AirPods Pro 3. Yeah, I wonder so we mentioned battery capacity, and that's definitely a great question because I think there's a lot to kind of dissect there. Are we still waiting on the S25 version of the Air? I suppose it's the Edge bringing back branding. That also, I suspect, will have terrible battery life, or already does. Um, let's see. Do they read chat? Yes, we do. Yeah, so hopefully Mark comes on soon.
He's coming on.
Oh, speak of the
Hello.
devil.
Hello, Mark. How's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Let's double check you're on the right mic. And can you record your audio, sir?
Yeah, let me open QuickTime.
Awesome.
And I got about 15 minutes. Is that cool?
All good. Sorry you got sent to another room for some reason.
No,
like,
no, 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 no. You're good.
invite.
My bad. I
Like the
clicked.
Google Meet.
I
Yeah,
totally missed the note. So,
it's all good.
let's see. I don't know if it's hitting the right mic on my recording, so I'm going to.
Okay.
Hello, hello, hello.
Chat. Yeah.
I'm gonna record from my phone instead. Okay, that's better.
Better? Okay.
Yeah.
I will intro you. Do you have headphones?
Hold on.
So we don't get any feedback or whatever. We've got some good questions from chat. Thank you guys. All right. Let me know when you're good, and I'll intro you, and we'll just bang out some questions.
Okay, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me?
Yep. And recording's
Okay.
good?
Okay. Let's do it.
Let's go. And yeah, just shout when you're running out of time. I'll clock 15 minutes for you, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. No problem. Let's get into this in 3, 2, 1. So let's get to those iPhone 17 rumors. Joining us to talk about all this is Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, the guy who breaks most of these rumors. Hello, Mark. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks
What's
for coming.
going on?
It's nothing much. You know what? I feel like we're just doing this every year now, right? It's been a couple years where you've come on to help us break some of these iPhone rumors. Apple announced that there is going to be an event September 9th. That's where we're expecting the iPhone
right.
17. We've talked about a couple of things, Mark. Like throughout the last, year, we've talked about the rumors of the iPhone 17 Air, the super thin iPhone. Is that the big new thing everyone's expecting this year?
Well, it depends who you ask, right? Like in terms of marketability and what they're going to build the event around and what the excitement in the hands-on area, what people are going to want to grab in the Apple stores when they go in for the first time to look at the new devices. Yeah, it'll be the iPhone 17 Air. In terms of what people are actually going to buy, I don't necessarily think it will be the iPhone 17 Air.
Mm-hmm.
I think consumers are smart enough to know what they value in these types of devices at this point. And in my mind, the two most important things in 2025 for our smartphone buyer are battery life and camera performance. And the 17 Air is going to lag in both. There's a lot of similarities in the 17 Air with the original MacBook Air. If you remember, that was a very compromised machine. It was thinner, it was lighter, more portable, more exciting, more marketable than any of the other MacBooks at the time. But battery life was subpar. I believe it was sub 5 hours at that point. And the bigger thing there is the performance, right? Was also very subpar. Now these days, because of the processors, I don't see the performance being much reduced compared to the Pro models. It'll certainly be on par with the performance in the baseline iPhone 17, which is pretty good. But if you think about the performance people care most about, it's the camera technology. And at least for these first couple generations of the 17 Air, or the Airline, I should say, thin and light and compromised performance, just like a MacBook Air back in the day. But then you saw what happened over the arc of time. You get a MacBook Air today, or you get an iPad Air today, those are not necessarily devices where you're compromising. You're getting the thin and light form factor with pretty good performance. Maybe you're compromising a bit compared to a pro level machine, but you're not compromising in battery life, right? The battery life on the MacBook Air today is insane. You're not compromising necessarily on performance on the iPad Air either. It's just a different variation of the different products in the line. So initially, it'll be a compromising machine, but it's going to show you where the iPhone line is going. And so eventually, we are going to get iPhone Airs that don't compromise as much as this initial version. So to me, this is more exciting about the arc of time rather than what's actually coming out in a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, I kind of feel that, like, the more I've been thinking about this, rumors are it's going to have a single camera on the back, really low battery life. People were asking in the chat, like, when can we expect another iPhone mini? I don't think we will, because the battery life was so terrible that everybody who has bought that thing, I've only seen complaints. I kind of feel like that's going to happen here again, like just predicting how people react to the iPhone Air personally. Do you think that's the case, Mark?
I think that it's I don't know, a hip phone. It's a cool, a cool marketable thing. The kids will love it, but it's not effective for the mass consumer, right? Maybe it's cool for someone who goes to school and the phone is in their backpack or some such, and they don't need to pull the phone out until after 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and they, just need it for the second half of the day. But to power through a day with everything you need to do, You're not going to be able to do that without some real efficiency gains by adding a battery pack or plugging in throughout the day, right? I'm not saying this phone is going to die out in 4 hours. What I'm saying is the battery life is going to be subpar compared to a base level 17 or a Pro model. Because to tell you what, the battery life on these Pro models are pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Samsung is the benchmark for Apple or us to base the performance of the still yet to be announced 17 Air on. But all the data points that I've seen is that the Samsung S25 Edge, which is on the market right now and the closest kin to what you would see from a 17 Air, I'm not seeing consumers bend over backwards to buy that thing. It's exciting to hold. It's great to use in the store. You pick it up and, to the point that Apple's trying to make on its invite, it's jaw-dropping when you hold it and use it for the first time. But it feels like the type of device you might get tired of because of the battery life limitations and one single camera on the back compared to the 3 lenses you're getting on the back of a Pro phone at this point. And the other thing you have to take into account, it's not like you're going to get a major savings price point wise. Usually when you have a compromised device in general in the consumer gadget world, you also have a compromised price point where it's a lower price point. The MacBook Air was a bit different when it launched in 08. The original version, the price point was on par or even more expensive than a MacBook base level and pretty close to a MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
These iPhone Air price points, my belief is that it's going to be around $900. And so you're going to be able to get a Pro phone for $100, $150, $200 more. And the amount of performance difference you're going to get in that is going to be tremendous. And if you think about from a thin and light standpoint, yeah, it's going to be so much thinner and lighter than the Pros, but it's not like the Pros or these bricks or anything like that.
Yeah, I honestly I kind of appreciate the heft of the Pros, and I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be worth that just to go, losing features just to get a thin phone. Igor, any questions from you?
Yeah, I guess I wonder, like, what are the generational technologies that Apple is expecting to implement, like, year over year here? Because with the MacBook Air, SSDs was a huge jump that enabled that, that's a storyline. But I guess here, like, cameras are probably not going to get thinner unless there's like a real like sea change in battery technology. Battery life is not going to get better. And I imagine there is some throttling that they have to do because of how small the phone is to make it performant, right?
I think over time you'll see a few things. One, the chips are going to get more efficient, right? And so if the chips get more efficient, the battery life is going to improve. Battery chemistry will improve. So you're going to be able to get a better battery life within that thin form factor. The other thing is the modems are going to get more efficient. So the 17 Air is going to use the same modem as the 16E, has a pretty efficient modem compared to what you're seeing on the Qualcomm side. The next generation modems are going to be even more efficient. And then I would anticipate eventually them being able to get multiple cameras into the device. The ultimate goal, and they will get there, it is just a matter of time and potentially a lot of time, get all the same functionality and features that you can in the Pro model in something that's the size of an Air model. And they will get there. They will get there. I mean, you've seen it in the other product lines as well. Like the difference in size between a MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro, it's quite minimal. On the iPad side, the iPad Pro is thinner than the iPad Air. So you are going to see the arc of time with technology do its thing. I highly anticipate that.
Speaking of the arc of time, there's been a lot of talk that this Air will kind of prove that Apple can make a super thin single plane. It's not hard to look forward and be like, oh, a foldable iPhone is kind of the same thing. They'll have to be working probably at that same level of thinness or something. Do you think the experience here with the Air could help them build the supposed foldable iPhone?
Well, internally, the iPhone Air is basically them working towards a redesigned Pro model in a few years from now, and that foldable phone. It's using the foldable phone. When you open up the Air and you open up the foldable next fall, you're going to see a lot of overlap in components from the batteries, from the modem, from some of the camera changes, in the internal, physical engineered internal architecture that they're using. There's going to be a lot of overlap between the two. So The Air is a stepping stone towards that foldable. And speaking of the foldable, we're not going to hear anything from Apple about that
Mhm.
next month, obviously. But that, I think, is the big one that I'm personally looking forward to. I'm sure you guys have tested the new Samsung Folds relentlessly. I think it's a great product. I just want it with iOS, and so we'll get that. We'll get that next year.
That is kind of the thing holding me back from any foldable at this point, is that I fear I'm too locked in. Apple did too good of a job there. Um, when it comes to like, or do we expect anything major on the iPhone 17 or Pro or Pro Max at this point? Like, what else can Apple do other than, switch up where the cameras are and make things faster and more efficient?
On the 17 regular, the big change is that they're going to follow what they did last year, which was they moved the base size of the Pro, regular
Mhm.
Pro, from 6.1 inch diag to 6.3, and so they'll do that. They'll go up to 120 hertz, so you'll get the ProMotion on a base level phone for the first time. Um, Other than that, it's the processor spec bump. The Pro and Pro Max, internally, it's considered a new ID, so a new industrial design. So you're going to get that redesigned back. So the front going to look the same. The back will be redesigned. You'll get that new camera architecture for the improved optical zoom, that new layout, a couple new colors. Obviously, they're going to tout significant gains on battery and performance with the new chip. But other than that, it's going to be quite minimal, quite iterative, not as iterative externally as you saw from Pixel 9 to Pixel 10.
Mhm.
But it is not some sort of going from the iPhone 7 to the iPhone 10. We'll get that iPhone 20 leap in a couple years from now. The other things I'm expecting at this launch next week would be the AirPods Pro update I wrote about a couple weeks ago, as well as updated Apple Watches. And for the first time in a few years, they're going to update all of the models. I expect the changes to not be overhauls. Also,
Mhm. Gotcha. I did see some reporting that Apple could be potentially starting to split up iPhone events, like having one in the spring, one in the fall, and kind of stagger when we'll see certain models. Have you heard much about that?
yes, the one issue they're going to run into is that
Mhm.
at some point it's going to be hard to differentiate the e models with the base models, which they're sort of conjoining together in the spring. One reason they're doing this is that they have so many models. Another reason they're doing this is to have more marketability throughout the course of the year. In terms, Apple's a company that's very run by marketing, PR, and
Mhm.
obviously the finance team. And what the finance team has seen, and we've all seen this covering their earnings reports, is that a lot of their revenue is very backloaded. And that's not necessarily a great thing for a consistent business. And so moving some of the iPhone models to the spring and building up hype around the spring allows you to get better return and better consistently throughout the course of the year. And so that's some of the factors going into that. But
Hmm.
if you look at a base level iPhone and you look at an iPhone, very similar functionality at this point. I mean, you're split off by basically one camera. The processing power is essentially the same.
Yeah.
The battery life is very
Yeah.
similar. So
MagSafe is a thing we were sad to see lost on the E because we all have MagSafe over here. Yeah.
there you are.
Yeah.
Sorry. MagSafe is missing. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Um, but the problem is that the price point situation that you have, if you look at the price point of a base iPhone in an E model right now, it's $150 delta. My belief is that the 550 price, or excuse me, the $600 price, can't believe the 16 is $600.
Yeah.
But if you look at it,
Yes.
that felt like tariff related pricing to
Mhm.
some extent. And so right now it may be $100 difference between a base phone and a 16E, which is, I guess, a sub base phone. There's a universe in which the price delta is $300 more expansive, $400 even. Um, that makes the 16E more relevant, or the E line more relevant,
Mhm.
while also keeping that base model. So it could really go either way.
Awesome. Anything else from you, Igor? While we've got Mark here.
Yeah, I guess if we could just circle back to the foldables, is the feeling at Apple that the display technology has come far enough? And I guess a corollary to that is like, is the feeling that they really need to release a foldable, that there's going to be significant enough differentiation between their model and the competition?
I don't think the Apple foldable is going to have any semblance of differentiation, personally, other than obviously their internal components, whether that's their modem, their chips, and obviously their software. Um, my belief and my understanding, talking to all these OEMs, is that next year is the year of no crease, and so I would anticipate that next fall. Let me take a step back. Not no crease, reduced crease.
Hmm.
I would anticipate the Pixel Fold 4, the Samsung Fold 8, and the Apple Fold 1. I'm not saying that's the name. I'm just saying that for the sake of the conversation. They will all be using pretty much the same lesser crease technology. They've all figured this out.
Hmm.
I mean, Samsung is providing the industry, right? And so they go
Yeah,
as
yeah.
Samsung goes.
I feel like maybe that was the thing Apple's waiting for. Like, we're not going to do anything until we can get that crease knocked down.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you online these days to follow all your rumors and everything?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me both. I really appreciate it. I love Engadget. Um, Mark Gurman on Twitter, on Threads. I guess there's Mastodon and Blue Sky. Just my first name, last name, pretty much everywhere.
Awesome. And your
And
newsletter,
most
right?
important,
People should
yeah, most
subscribe.
importantly, yeah, Bloomberg.com/power on. Subscribe there, please. And looking forward to the event. Looking forward to our coverage, and of course, seeing Engadget's coverage as well. So really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Mark, drop me that file in a drive link or whatever. But thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Let me look up what's here. Thank you, folks, for sitting tight for that. It's always fun to bring in a live guest, and so many things can go wrong. There's some follow-up conversation from this, so I'm going to re-intro into that. Okay. So, Igor, I think Mark laid out a really just like a very straightforward look at like what we can expect, and honestly, it doesn't seem like the iPhone Air is going to be that compelling, and it feels like he's not super enthusiastic about it. Other rumors I've seen don't really point to much other than it being super thin. Like, do you think that's going to be the vibe with this thing? Like, all looks, but all sacrifice to you?
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see how whether the vision he laid out, you have,
Hmm.
year over year changes really does happen. I'm somewhat more skeptical, if only because I think there were much more obvious technologies that, I think made the evolution of the MacBook Air possible, where I think here it's a bit harder. I'm sure, like Apple is probably investing all the R&D into this. Um, but there's just, I guess maybe I'm just not well read enough on this to know like the
Hmm.
exact breakthroughs that they're kind of banking on to make a really compelling Air iPhone Air possible.
I think the key breakthrough is just like thin, 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 thin.
Mm,
That's all they're thinking about.
mhm,
Like, I'm thinking about when I first saw those new iPad Pros that they were selling
mhm.
that were just supposed to be super thin. I was like, okay, we read about it, we wrote about it. It's like, oh, that's interesting. It seems kind of silly that that's all they're banking on. Then I saw one of them in person when I was covering
Yeah,
WWDC. I was like, what the hell? This thing looks like paper.
yeah,
It looks like it is. I've seen magazines that are far thicker, than what those iPad Pros look like. So I do feel like there is some just like visually compelling and usability compelling thing towards thinness, even though you're going to lose battery life. I don't think this first model of the iPhone Air is going to be a must-have for a lot of people, but it
mhm,
does get Apple in the space of like, okay, what can we do with the super thin phone? What do we leave behind? What do we choose not to leave behind next time, right? Like, how do we make battery life work better for something this thin? They're gonna hit like the limits of physics here, because you got to have a decent battery. Like, that's it. We
yeah,
expect practically all day battery life. So if this thing comes out and it has terrible battery life like the minis, I don't think that's going to be good for them or the public response to it. It just seems like thinness is the only thing that they're selling here. uh, what Mark pointed out is that he doesn't think, like, hardware wise, the iPhone Fold, when it comes next year, which is what the rumor is, he doesn't think like it's going to be fundamentally that different than what we're seeing from from Google and from Samsung. But I think there's a key difference, and this is the thing that Apple does. Apple knows how to make iPad OS, right? Like Apple knows how to make a good tablet operating system, and Google does not. Google has fully given up on tablets. They've like started and stopped
multiple
their
times.
tablet strat. Yeah, several times. Like it's really just Samsung. Samsung's out there making premium Android tablets. I don't think anybody's buying them. The
Yeah.
most popular Android tablet are the Kindle Fires because Amazon has stripped them down to be super cheap and put their own interface on them and has like de-Googled it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think more importantly than that is I think Google, or excuse me, Apple can rally developers and force buy-in on their part to make really compelling uh, iPhone foldable apps, right? Because
Mhm.
I think really that is, yeah, the Google apps and the Samsung apps work well, but once you get into the third-party apps, it falls apart a bit. Some are better than others, obviously, but I think
Mhm.
just the buy-in that Apple is able to command, I think that is going to be probably the biggest differentiating factor.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
to your point, like in a way, Apple has already been doing this work for a decade plus with
Mhm.
iPad OS, so the jump
That's
is,
what I'm saying. Yeah.
yeah, much less substantial, right?
They've done the
Than
work. They've done the people, developers already have iPhone apps. They already have
yeah.
iPad apps. Like maybe they will have a way to like, a way to like transition between them when you open up an iPhone Fold instantly. That could
Hmm.
be something, but that's kind of the thing. Like nobody else has figured out tablets. I don't want to be an Apple stan. Like I go to like where the best solution is typically,
Hmm.
and it's just that I've been here long enough to see the entire rise of tablets. I've lived through Nexus tablets. I've lived through every iteration of Samsung tablet. I'm like,
Yeah.
there was some cool stuff there, but Google didn't give a shit. Like Google just didn't care. And this is
Hmm.
one of the things that irks me. Like Google will sometimes be like, "Oh, this is a really here's some cool hardware. Here's a cool idea. Here's where we could take it." And they just like whiff every single time
Hmm.
because I don't think they care enough. Like they don't care about delivering a great product ultimately because of the way Google is set up. Like Google is such a middle manager company. That's the thing. Like if somebody will work on a project and then they get they get a raise or promotion to go
Promotion.
somewhere
Yeah.
else, and then nobody is left like being like, this is my baby. I care a lot about tablet and Android tablet stuff. There were a handful of people like that early on in the Android era, especially around like the Nexus time,
Hmm.
but they just really lack that. So anyway, that's kind of like why I think the iPhone full. I'll probably write about this at some point because I feel like this is kind of the big thing. iPad OS is not perfect. It is not the best multitasking tablet OS out there, but it is ultimately the best option, you know?
Hmm.
It's unfortunate. Like for all its deficiencies, it is the best one so far, I guess. So
Hmm.
yeah. Any other follow-up thoughts, Igor, around the iPhone event?
Only that I imagine, once we get this foldable iPhone, that Instagram will finally release an iPad app because they'll have no option but to, right? So this is what it's going to take, a foldable iPhone.
Yeah, when pigs fly, when iPhones fold, there will be an Instagram iPad app. Quick thoughts going out here. We are expecting to see an Apple Watch 11 and Apple Watch Ultra 3 at the iPhone events as well. So, the basic stuff. It will be interesting to see like what they do with the next AirPods Pro because those things have been so successful. Like I use them every day.
Yeah.
I use them every hour. Like I'm like attached to my AirPods because I'm always either listening to podcasts or jumping on calls or jumping on Zoom chats. Like you need them. So I am interested to see like what they do there in terms of optimizing those things and making them sound better and more efficient or something. What would you want to see, Igor, from a new set of AirPod Pros? Where are they
Oh,
missing at this point?
for me, the thing has always been the fit. Like no matter
Yep.
which ear tips I try, I can't get a perfect seal, which really affects the sound quality. And there
Have
are
you
those.
tried the Comply foam tips?
I just don't like the foam. Like I really
Oh,
prefer silicone. Yeah, or silicone, excuse
You
me.
gotta pick a lane. Like you want
Yeah,
a perfect fit, then you have to have some foam in your ear,
yeah,
unfortunately. But yeah,
yeah,
you're right that the silicone stuff like has trouble. Like I've had trouble
yeah,
getting them to fit too. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, beyond that, it's really like I think from like a software and usability standpoint,
Mhm.
forget the sound quality. I think the sound quality is good enough, but from a usability and functionality standpoint, they're just head and tails above the competition. And really, that's only because
Mhm.
Apple can do that integration with iOS, and it's like I'm constantly just like amazed, like how you can customize the thing, like the AirPods to really
Mhm.
just suit your needs, right? And it's just they feel like such a great extension of the iPhone. I'm not saying anything new or like
Right. Right.
revolutionary here, but really it is that, right?
Yeah, yeah. What I would love, I need some magical features. Like I need like when you drop your AirPods and they go exploding out to the other room, I need to hit a button and them to zip right back in. I don't care where they are. I need magnets to put them right back in there. You drop your AirPods through a sewer grate, which has happened to a lot of people. You look around New York, you'll see them everywhere. People need ways to retrieve those things. I guess we'll have to start adding cords to them. What would that look like?
Yeah.
Earbuds with cords. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would love is if they made it much easier to replace the batteries for like,
Mm.
you instead of just buying new ones, if you
Yeah,
could, if there was a way for the technicians to just replace the batteries, that'd be incredible. But obviously, then probably it's not going to be as thin and light.
they're too small. Like they're too
Yeah.
small. And then you don't want like big chunky earbuds like what was it, the Microsoft Surface Buds, which were those big circles.
Yeah.
I've seen some big ugly buds, like the early Sony earbuds were huge.
Hmm.
But you could probably replace the batteries on those easily. Anyway,
Hmm.
folks, we are going to be talking about iPhone rumors leading up to September 9th. We'll have a lot more coverage on the site. Let us know. If you have any more questions, drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. Okay. Let's go through news and then we'll finish up. Hello, chat. How's it going? Have you tried the comply tips, Igor?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just
They are
find they
like
also,
they get softer, like they get less noticeable as you wear them, but they also fall apart. So yeah,
yeah. And they also just like, you really have to be aggressive about cleaning them.
you have to be aggressive about cleaning all your things. From the chat, yeah, Lou says Apple's great. Doesn't fit. Use third party. That's true. That's true of every single device. By the way, it's not just Apple. Like if something doesn't work on the Google thing, whatever. Like I look for third party solutions to make good products kind of like work, despite their deficiencies. I do this for my car as well. All right, let's go on to other news. Okay. All right, let's move on to other news. And I guess something grim happened this week. The first known AI wrongful death lawsuit accused OpenAI of enabling a teen suicide. There's a big piece at the New York Times about this by Kashmir Hill. The title is A Teen Was Suicidal. ChatGPT was a friend he confided in. And basically, that story breaks down how the parents of this child, who unfortunately committed suicide, the parents found like extended chat histories with ChatGPT about how he could plan this, judging his like, is this a good noose? I think like it was even like giving him them tips on this. Just a really sad, disturbing thing. There are guardrails to prevent this. Like as a user is starting to talk about disturbing things, like it is supposed to suggest help, but this kid apparently just said like, "Hey, I'm writing a book about this. Like I'm doing research. This isn't real," and it kept the conversation going. Igor, you're doing AI reporting for us now. Like how significant is this? You think?
It's hard to say, right? Because I think, certainly OpenAI has enough money, resources to potentially make this go away. But I think it highlights something that we probably all intuitively feel, which is these systems aren't intelligent, right? Like a truly intelligent system would know not to guide a user away from this path of thinking, right? Or get them help, right? And I think the fact that it was able, for lack of a better word, to be
Yeah.
gamed in this way is just really disappointing and sad. And I, to like OpenAI's credit, and what we should qualify here is that this was using GPT 4.0, right? So the
Mhm.
previous system, which is not even their most robust and advanced system at the time, right? And with GPT 5.0, they've introduced new safety features that are specifically targeted at situations like this, where
Mhm.
the system should be better at kind of differentiating why you're asking a certain set of questions. But ultimately, like underlying the problem of all of this is that these systems are so sycophantic, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they want to, for lack of a better word, like please you and give you the answer that you want. And so that's what they're designed. That's where there's a huge flaw in their designs, right? And I I think we're seeing a whole host of problems arise from this, where people, there's just something wrong when there's just something bad that happens when you keep talking to, whether it's a person or an AI system, that just kind of reaffirms all your beliefs and kind of pushes you down a certain like thought process.
It's disgusting. I mean, this kind of ties back to the thing we saw where people were like, "Oh no, my AI girlfriend slash boyfriend is gone because GPT-5 is so different than 4," and it's gonna make people do crazy things. It's also gonna lead to
Hmm.
like severe emotional responses. I don't think we are not ready as a society for these things because we are so easily fooled, but it's in
Hmm.
our nature, it's in our like programming basically to be fooled by things that pretend to be sentient to us.
Hmm.
um yeah, I don't know, another reason I worry about this. Are you regularly using any AI like chatbot at this point, Igor? Not just for work stuff?
Uh, like I'll so in the process of relearning guitar after like a
Hmm.
decade away, I will sometimes, what I find ChatGPT and Claude are really good is organizing their thoughts, much better than thoughts in quotations here.
Right.
Um, are much better at organizing it than, say, like if you want to find the exact same answer online, you might have to dig through Reddit and like
Hmm.
judge what 12 different people are saying, and they're all
Hmm.
saying the different things. So I find that's where, and I think this is actually what most people use these chatbots for. I think 70% are using it just for search,
Right.
right? And so that's what I use it, but very infrequently.
Hmm. I think I'm testing the new iOS, so like I occasionally ask Siri things, and it'll be like, "Hey, do you want to ask ChatGPT this? Because I'm very stupid."
Hmm.
And I let it do that, and I hear what the response is. And sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. I have been using that like visual intelligence search button thing that popped up in the
Hmm.
recent betas, and that is helpful sometimes. I'm like, what flower is this? And the basic Siri search won't do it. I could like drop it into, the Google image search thing and do that. But it's kind of helpful to just have like a button you press and be like, oh, identify this thing. That's kind of cool. I will still double check it later, but it's interesting. I
Hmm.
can get some sort of immediate response. I cannot see having like a prolonged relationship with a chatbot though. Like a thing I
Either.
talk to as a friend, I
Hmm.
don't know. That is just still a little bit beyond me. Anyway, I think the story is very sad, but we are probably going to hear more things like this, and it's going to be interesting to see how OpenAI responds to the sort of like thing they owe their users, right? Like actual safety and something every major platform has faced. Like I don't think Mark Zuckerberg handled the Myanmar genocide very well.
Yeah.
They have ignored a lot of things, and those were all horrific things that happened because of a technology platform, and we've just kind of memory hold a lot of this stuff. So we shall see. We'll be keeping an eye on the story and the follow-up to it. It's just beginning. You're also covering something, Igor, that was interesting. This dropped right after last week's episode. I think it was last Friday, but the U.S. government agreed to take an $8.9 billion stake in Intel, a 10% stake. The ultimate, like this, this is actually money coming from the CHIPS Act. This is money that was going to go to Intel initially, but it's being positioned as the government buying 10% of Intel. This seems weird. I still don't know what to make of this. And this is also after the Trump administration, like Trump himself, was like saying Intel CEO was a Chinese spy, and then he had to go meet with them and I don't know, glad hand or something. What is going on here, Igor?
Yeah, it's certainly, I think, an unprecedented moment, right? Like, looking back, like thinking back to it, right? Like, I can only think of really one example of when something similar like this has happened, and that was,
Hmm.
following the 2008 recession, when banks and car companies were bailed out. But the fact that this is already money that was earmarked for Intel, right, and money that was designed to, kind of make US semiconductor manufacturing more secure
Hmm.
is just it. And there hasn't been a lot of transparency about, you know, Lutnick initially said that these weren't voting shares, but they're common stocks, so they are
Right,
voting shares, and the
right.
government has kind of like promised to vote with shareholders. And so I have some interviews lined up, but one thing I'm really interested in exploring is like what are like the policy implications when, let's say, you're Qualcomm and
Hmm.
potentially, how is this not a conflict of interest if the Trump administration is making policy when it has a 10% stake in one of your competitors, right? Like I think there's a
Yeah.
very good reason why in a capitalistic society, why ideally we don't want the government to have stakes in companies, right?
This is also literally the fear of like every conservative economist and
Mhm.
anybody professing conservative philosophy is like, oh no, they're gonna take over our companies. And okay, I don't
And
understand what's happening now.
quote unquote pick winners, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also funny, this money is coming from the CHIPS Act. The CHIPS Act is a Biden initiative, and as we've seen, like the Trump administration has to basically either erase or like just stamp its own name on something coming from the Biden administration. So the EV tax credits, which I've written about, they're ending at the end of September, but that's only because, oh, basically only because they came from like Biden's plans, and we don't want anything good in the world. That's
Mhm.
basically where we are right now. So what a sad state of affairs. We're going to be following the story. We're going to see if this means anything like for the other chip companies, and what are they like, is everybody else gonna have to go and beg? And I don't know, we don't know, like everything is in turmoil right now. What a fun time to be covering technology news and news in general. Anyway, anything else you want to mention, Igor? Anything else going on?
Just only in relation to OpenAI. So
Mhm.
yesterday they published evaluative research that they did in cooperation with Anthropic, where it was really interesting because the two companies basically tested each other's systems to find safety flaws. And lo and behold, one of the issues that Anthropic discovered with ChatGPT was, it tends to be an ass kisser, right? And so, um, if you have just a few moments, chat, I really recommend Anna, one of our news writers, did a great job writing up the news after my shift. So um, she did, yeah, it's a really short article, so just read it. It's really
Mhm.
interesting work. Yeah.
It is funny how GPT is so sycophantic, and how that kind of relates to like all the stories we hear about Sam Altman, is that he is the kind of guy who will literally tell everybody what they want to hear. And that's kind
Mhm.
of how he gets into, that's how he gets the ear of like, people who have money and people who have power, is that he's very good at telling people what they want. And was it modeled
Yeah.
on him? I don't know. Anyway,
Well,
folks, if you are interested in any of these AI stories, go check out the book we've recommended before, Empire of AI by Karen Howe. I'm trying to get her on at some point to talk about like everything she's covered when it comes to Altman and OpenAI in general. But yeah, we'll be doing that. And yeah, I think let's wrap this up. Let me think of a good segment here. Okay. All right, we will be following all of that. It feels like every week there's a new thing in AI for us to do. So just stay tuned to Engadget.com for all of that. Then you do working on, then we do picks, and we can wrap the episode. Okay. Our theme music is by That's it for this episode, folks. Thanks for joining us. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our former managing editor, Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by Ben Ellman. You can find Igor online at
That's Igor Bonifacic, Bonifacic at Blue Sky.
Awesome. And you can find me at Blue Sky. I'm at Devindra. I podcast about movies and TV at the Filmcast at thefilmcast.com. Go check out our Neja 2 review or our review of all the major movies this year. You can email us at podcastinggadget.com. Leave us a review on iTunes and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts, including Spotify. Thanks, folks. We're out. All right, we could chat for a bit.
Also, shout out to Terrence, who is starting a new job at The Verge as their weekend editor.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I just saw him when we had our little retreat. How is chat going? Anything we want to highlight? Please, folks, please take a joke. Learn jokes. AirPod with wires. I was being sarcastic. Yeah, Dude Need Charlie. We started late because we wanted to make time for Mark Gurman to come in. Yeah. It was a good interview. Anything else? People are talking about Helldivers. Lucky Duck Podcast says they really wanted the Sony Google TV to work. Hey, I wanted the Sony Google TV to work. Oh man, I have so much harder. Talk about Google like just doing shit and like just letting it rest. In 2010, they launched that whole Logitech Google TV thing, and I was like, okay, I'll review that. And they sent like a Dish Network. They basically had to give me Dish Network, so they had to install a dish on the top of like my Brooklyn like brownstone building. I was like, I don't know what's happening here. I didn't pay for it because it's all part of the review process, but it was like a lot of stuff going on for this. Do you remember this, Igor? It was this really terrible. It was like a remote controller keyboard. It started with the large one. It was like a full size keyboard, and then they moved to like the Sony one, the little like white keyboard that had a full set keys. And Google TV was supposed to be like, you know, the internet on your TV. They had no idea what they were doing. It was amazing,
Is it
actually
the Review? Logitech Review? No.
Is it what?
What was the name of the Logitech device?
Google TV. Let me see. I think that's that point. Sony Internet TV with Google TV. I think that was it.
Yeah.
We're losing all the. We don't have pictures anymore from articles that old. Dumb times. Like people think I'm down on Google. It's because I've been here for a while. And I've seen Google do some very, very stupid things. And the kids don't even know. The kids don't even know like what we lived through in the Nexus era of Android phones.
Dare I say the greatest website ever made is killedbygoogle.com, which chronicles everything that Google has killed. And let me tell you, it's an extensive list.
Extensive list. It's not just Reader. I mean, I was there at that Google I/O where did they announce the Nexus Q, or was that just rumored? But there was like a thing, a little circular device that was going to be some sort of smart device, and they just like never launched it. Nexus Q. That's when I learned not to trust Google. It's just like they don't know anything at this point. Something we didn't talk about with the iPhone rumors. I do think the base level phones may be getting ProMotion, so fast refresh rate screens, which means what will be the
Mark mentioned that? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe it's probably going to be 90 hertz versus 120, which
sure. Who can tell the difference?
I mean, you know, I've been holding on to an iPhone 12, just waiting for the for just like a 90 or a ProMotion display on the regular phone, because you know, like as I've joked, you know, when you're paying with fake money, these phones cost a lot more, even without tariffs and inflation taken into account. So I just can't wait. I've been waiting for an upgrade, so this is the time.
I think the reporting is the iPhone Air battery will be equivalent to the iPhone 12, essentially, like at that level. So good God, I think that's going to be kind of a disaster for Apple, because people are going to be like, this is all looks. No, you don't have the cameras. It's not going to have as many speakers as like the base iPhone, because I don't think there's space at the bottom. That's going to be interesting to see.
I also wonder if there'll be a quote unquote proper way to hold it, right? You know, memories of antenna gate and all that with the, what was it, the iPhone 4?
iPhone 4. The big
Yes.
blocky one. The iPhone 4, which was apparently I was listening to the Brian Merchant book, the one about like the birth of the iPhone, and
Mm.
that was the design they wanted initially. Like they wanted to do that at launch,
Mm.
but they couldn't like make that tech work at the time. So they kind of
Mm.
settled on the basic iPhone design, and then to the 3G and 3GS and everything. Nexus 7 tablet was legit, says Wes Jackson. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I did use that for years. That did make me fall in love with 7, 8 inch tablets, because back then phones were like small. Phones were like 4 inch screens. We did not have big phones, but the big phones kind of ate into that.
And it was sad because Honeycomb was like the one and only time Google really made an effort to make Android work with tablets.
I remember that. I do remember that. Deeper Nine says having an iPhone for 5 years is proof you never need a new iPhone. Kind of true. Like I
Yeah.
have. This is the other thing. Like it's Apple hardware just lives forever. I have an iPad that was not even new in 2018, a 6th gen iPad, but I bought it before my daughter was born. I was like, we could use an iPad. Like it could be useful to have for kids stuff. I'm still using it. The
Mhm.
screen is cracked. There's a big hole in the screen. I just recently had to buy. I bought like a used several-year-old base model for like $100 to replace it, but I'm still using the one with the cracked screen. That's going to be my kitchen tablet. It's still going. It can still play YouTube. Wild. This hard, and I barely paid anything for that back then.
Yeah.
Apple hardware lasts, folks.
And I think as I get older, I kind of appreciate simplicity in
Yeah.
technology. So today I published a review on a new Sony camera, and the camera I use is the Fujifilm X-E3, which
Hmm.
is from 2017. And just like going from like current to modern Fuji menus is like crazy, but then going to Sony menus is just like, you're
Sony
like, what is
menus are
going on? We've lost the plot.
disaster. They
Yeah.
are such a disaster. Good God. All right. Anything else, chat? Anything else you want to mention, Igor? How things are going?
No,
Okay,
just that
we're good.
it's
Hmm.
it's always amazing to have to be on the podcast. And you mentioned the getaway. That was chatting with you, Dev, was one of my favorite parts of it. And
Oh,
just
thank you so much. It was
we
good to
had
meet you
such
in
a great
person.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
listeners, what happened is we had a meeting in New York, and we were actually able to fly people out and see Engadgeters in person. And there are a lot of people I had not met in person because we were all working remotely for the last few years. So that was really cool. It was very good to spend time with you, Igor. And yeah, we
Mhm.
will get you back on the show. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. Thank you so much, Ben, podcast producer Ben, who's not on the stream but is managing all the camera changes and everything, and he is in the chat. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much, Igor, for joining us this week. And thank you, folks, for joining us. You will have hopefully maybe some other rumors will appear next week. We will talk about that. That's the week before the iPhone event, and then after that, we're gonna have an iPhone event. So maybe we'll do a special stream like right after the iPhone event to like download and figure out what's going on. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us. We're out. Always fun time. Later, folks. Bye.